Saint Exupery began writing The Little Prince during World War II, after Germany's invasion of France had forced him to give up aviation and flee to New York. This wartime stress undoubtedly contributed to the sense of urgency in Saint Exupery's message of love and compassion. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry was a French writer, aviator, poet, and author. Raised in an aristocratic family, he fell in love with aviation at an early age after took his first airplane ride at the age of 12. He received his pilot's wings during his compulsory military service in 1922, around which time he also began to write his adventure as a pilot, who supplied the inspiration for all of his literary endeavors, which culminated with the 1943 publication of the classic, The Little Prince. The narrator introduced himself as a man who learned when he was a child that adults lack imagination and understanding. He is now a pilot who was crash-landed in a desert. He encounters a small boy who asks him for a drawing of a ship, and the narrator agrees. The narrator who calls the child the Little Prince learns that the boy comes from a very small planet, which the narrator believes to be asteroid B612. Over the course of the next few days, the Little Prince tells the narrator about his life on his asteroid planet, which is no bigger than a house. The pilot narrator. The narrator of the story. The pilot crashes in the middle of the Sahara Desert. When his engine fails, the pilot is grown up, but none who has always been explorer is sympathetic. The Little Prince. The title character of the story, the Little Prince ventures to other planets in the universe after discovering that the rose he loves has lied to him. Innocent and curious, the Little Prince begins to. The fox. The Little Prince meeting with the fox is the climax of the story. It's the moment when the Little Prince realizes why his rose is so important to him. The fox is skittish around the prince. The snake. The snake speaks in riddles, and he meets the snake possesses a poison that he promised will send the prince. The rose. The rose is the object of the Little Prince's affection. She is beautiful and vain, even to it, pale and dramatic cry, which prompts the Little Prince to leave his family and send the festival. The lamplighter is a gentle but unhappy grown-up who is considered late because his job allows him now rest his plan next day closer every minute, and in order to keep up with his geographer is the last man the Little Prince meets before his ventures to Earth. The geographer is a scholarly grown-up who spent his life waiting for explorers to venture to his planets. The merchant. The Little Prince also meets a merchant on the Earth. The merchant claims to sell a pill that can quench a person's thirst, saving 53 minutes each day. The Little Prince deviation responded. The king. The king is the first grown-up the Little Prince meets on his throne. He is bossy but fair, bowing to make only reasonable demands of his subjects. The settings of the story. The story of The Little Prince is primarily set in the Sahara Desert, but the story also consists of many flashbacks as the prince relays his own story to the pilot. It is here in the desert that he meets the Little Prince, who then begins to tell him of his home planet and all of the places he has traveled to. Context of the story. Saint Exupery began writing The Little Prince during World War II, after Germany's invasion of France had forced him to give up aviation and flee to New York. In addition to his torturous thoughts of the war in Europe, having to leave his homeland and no longer being able to fly planes affected Saint Exupery deeply. The point of view. The Little Prince is written in the first-person point of view. This point of view is distinguished from the other types in that we distinctly see the world I appear in the narrative. In other words, we see all of the action of the story from the narrator's perspective, who is also an active participant in the